Well, we're going to have quite a chat today, let me tell you. I want to introduce in a moment this amazing group of musicians and artists that I'm having a great pleasure to interview. And what we're getting at is this weekend's performances by the Santa Barbara Symphony. That will be for those of you watching this video in posterity. November 18 and 19, 2023 in Santa Barbara at the Granada Theater with the Santa Barbara Symphony Orchestra. Conductor Nir Kabaretti, who's the guy in the sunglasses over there, and with the just amazing guest artists and their amazing owned piece. It's yours, you know that. Time for Three, and a triple concerto in 4 amazing movements that is just absolutely one of the greatest masterpieces I think I've heard in a long, long time.
Wow.
And of course it is. The composer is Kevin Putz. And just let me tell you, I'll shut up in a minute, but Kevin Putz has been, I've read the reviews for The Hours, one of his most recent opera that opened in January, something, and is crazy wild, and other works, but I did not make the connection when I started to listen those months ago to this triple concerto. So, and it's a very unique triple concerto, by the way, that's going to be on this program, because it has 3 soloists, you know, like in the Beethoven triple concerto and the Brahms triple concerto. But, you know, the thing is, all 3 of you are singers, violin and vocals. That's Nick Kendall. You can wave or something. Violin and vocals, Charles Yang over there, and double bass and vocals, Renan Meyer. And this means it's your piece. There is no other ensemble. This is absolutely amazing. And I want to talk to you. Why don't we go there right now, right after I think we've just introduced the 3 soloists, but I think it's time to introduce the conductor, Nir Kabaretti, who is there. And I guess just I'll throw a question at Nir, because you know what, this city owes you a lot because you were on top of everything. That's my takeaway. This piece, this concerto, wins the the Grammy Award in January, and it's announced that it's on your program. Nir, how do you do this? Tell me all about this. The discovery.
Yeah, first of all, I knew about the ensemble Time for Three for a long time. It's a small community. We like to share feedbacks, and I talked to a lot of colleagues who told me you have to see this. And I witnessed a few of the things online, recordings, and I knew it's on absolutely the top of my wish list. Then came the opportunity to be part of California Festival, celebration of new music. And the condition was to feature a piece that was written in the last 5 years. Now, I made 1 + 1. Kevin Putz, I played his pieces in the past, and I looked for that, and I remembered, the making of this contact concerto. And I says, what if, we could have Kevin Putz as part of the festival and Time for Three? I thought, well, it's probably the chances are, not going to happen. They are booked, all over. We just crossed our fingers, and it was possible. So I'm so happy with my team, the artistic team, my scouts that worked with Time for Three, with their management, to make it possible for them to perform in part of this festival, and of course to be first time in Santa Barbara. So it's
extraordinary, really, really extraordinary. And I thank you on behalf of the entire community, if I may, for bringing this work, a new piece, to a public in Santa Barbara. It's just extraordinary. What I want to now, I'm skipping around a little bit, so let me catch up on my notes a bit. Thanks, Nir. You explained this business, and this gives me a chance to list the rest of the program. But that this concert is part of the California Festival, a celebration of new music, and that kind of was the incentive, if I just heard you correctly, to go for it, to grab it. Okay, let's see. The program will also include, and I'll not ask Nir about an analysis of the arc of the programming, because the arc is the concerto. I mean, the concerto is the biggest thing on the program, but Borodin's Palazzian Dances, Bizet's L'Arlésienne Suite number 2, and Ravel's La Valse. I mean, wonderful programming. But we're here to focus on this concerto Contact. 4 movements. Let me go down a little bit. Nir, you've answered a couple questions. Well, I guess I'm ready now to mention that, you know, in the program notes, puts mentions that, you know, this kind of this work evolves. Correct me, by the way, if I'm completely wrong, but the work evolves from the COVID pandemic in a sense, maybe is inspired by it, although I think it's way deeper than that. But the big thing is, you were in lockdown, and you had what? I mean, the concerts had been canceled. We were all dead in the water in terms of performance. Suddenly you had this bounty of time to fine tune it. Who wants to go first of the trio and discuss how that glorious COVID, I'm sorry to say, allowed you to perfect the concerto? I'm sure that's what happened, right? Who wants to go first?
Who wants to go first? Go ahead, Charlie.
1, 2, 3.
2,
all of us.
3.
Yeah, it's a great delay going on here. I think we can all kind of elaborate on this, but I'll start. This piece, yes, definitely the pandemic was an evolution of this piece. I mean, we had talked about this piece and the skeleton, and a lot of it was actually written prior to us all being, you know, at home pretty much. But the pandemic really took a toll on in a way that, like, advanced this piece almost completely in a way where we could record it. You know, at the time we couldn't perform it. We were set out to do the premieres, you know, in San Francisco, Philadelphia, and you know, but we couldn't do that. We couldn't perform it live. So literally one of the first times we heard the piece as a whole was when we recorded it, which was an amazing thing to feel, and to kind of elaborate on. But the pandemic really did, we were missing that kind of human contact. I mean, I know the piece is called Contact. He elaborates on outer space, and of course that was kind of the idea before, but missing human contact was a big part of this, and just the humanity, which you mentioned before, prior to us recording this. But it's real. The human nature of this piece is the celebration of humanity. That's really what it is, but also reaching forward and reaching outside of our own world. So yeah, very good. Who should I popcorn over to? Nick? Popcorn Nick. On mute.
Oh, I was just going to say that. Oh, he's muted.
I'm sorry. No, I think it was. I remember when we were sort of rethinking the third movement, which we call Contact. I had told the guys and Kevin, this was in the middle of lockdown. I was missing playing a lot. Obviously, I was missing the experience of even creating with the guys, because, you know, that's so much of our life is about the vibe we share in the moment and the stage, but even just writing together. But I was driving by myself and I heard this NPR podcast, and it was this veteran astronaut who was describing what it was like to travel to space. And it was really amazing because he was saying, you know, we're dealing, and this was during the very needed turn of events in our country, everything around George Floyd. And so you had the pandemic, you had things happening in politics, and then you had this real question that we had to grapple with in our country, culturally. And so it seemed really kind of crazy. But this astronaut was talking about space travel and how when he was in the spaceship, you know, hundreds and thousands of miles above the Earth, he oftentimes would look at planet Earth and how small planet Earth was, like how really teeny it was, but also how gorgeous it was. Because when the sun hits the planet, it's this blue, warm blue color with subtle greens, and obviously white marks. But it was so gorgeous, and it just made him realize this, you know, having this perspective on life and about how much one can think about the future and think about possibilities, and that, you know, when you're grappling with problems, it's important to also think about the other side of that. And that was incredibly inspiring. And I just remember calling Kevin about that and telling him about that, you know, just we shared those moments together. And I think that kind of went into what the third movement ultimately became. But yeah, Mr. Meyer, what do you think?
Run on. He's fallen asleep. Just kidding.
No, I'm just, oh, first of all, I mean, it's just so incredible to be here in Santa Barbara. It's just absolutely glorious. And it's, I think one of the things that's so beautiful about the piece is that, you know, we get to take it all around and take it around the world, really. And we're so excited to play it with this incredible orchestra. I remember getting the score and being so excited. And I think we got the score, gosh, guys, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like it was maybe like days before the pandemic. It showed up. I was so excited, you know. I was like, it's a big deal that, and you get that score and you get the paper and you know, it's a new work. It's a piece of art. It's commission. It's something that you know, I don't even know as a kid if I even imagined that as a possibility, or even really understood what it was. And then you get a little older and you're in music conservatory and you hear about things like, you know, new commissions. And I just remember listening to Beethoven, Brahms, etc., and never really thinking about all of the logistics that went into why those pieces became born. And so, you know, when we got this commission and we got the music and it was in our hands, and now it was about, you know, taking that and finding the character, finding the joy, finding the story with your bandmates, celebrating that with the orchestra. It's just a gorgeous thing. And then the pandemic hit and it was like, just kidding. And hurry up and wait for a while until, you know, you have the opportunity. But yeah, it did. It then there were revisions involved and some new thought that went into the transformation and evolution of all the magic that Kevin came up with. But I think, like, to me, what really matters so much is with a composer like Kevin, and, you know, this seems kind of like what I'm about to say is just like, duh, you know, but it's not always what it actually is. And I'll describe what I mean. So Kevin, he's just a musician, and he happens to be an extraordinary composer, and he happens to have the ability to virtuosically, like within 2 days, write, you know, 20 minutes of music for an orchestra. That's the talent and the chops that this guy has, you know. But at his core, he wants to connect with people. He wants to spread joy. He wants to write music that is going to move people. And that's at the top of his motivation as an artist. And, you know, it's also at the top of what Type of 3 does. So when you get that synergy together, it becomes something that can be really impactful, because you're really cutting to the core of what, you know, we believe we're trying to accomplish, you know, collectively as musicians.
Well said.
Yeah, let me now. I'm checking the clock a little bit, so I'm going to try and hustle us just a bit. But we haven't yet gotten to the second half of that condition that has me so curious. But I want to ask Nir just a pure, simple question about the score. You see the score, you've worked up the score and everything. How hard is it? That's what I want to know.
Well, it's funny. I first listened to the recording and loved it. And you said something. The esteemed colleague talked about the humanity, the love, the joy. Do you see that? There's something very innovative in the first bar. We still today think it's incredible that Beethoven, used chorus and soloists in the Ninth Symphony, adding the word to the instrumental format. He needed the human voice to experience his values. Mm-hmm. Now we have 200 years later a composer that starts a concerto with, we imagine 3 incredible soloist virtuosic. He starts with them singing a cappella without any instruments. Now that's totally against any concerto concept you would imagine. Let alone, that you could hardly find, 3, musicians, and I'm talking about instrumentalists, that could sing so beautifully. So obviously the composer knew who is writing for, but just this touch, and again, I want to say a cappella without words. There is no lyrics, it's just the vowels, and it could not get more human. That's the basic statement of this concerto. It starts with something extremely warm that comes from heart. And I think in every bar in this score, you would feel it. Now, about the score, I received it later. And, I was quite fascinated with the last movement because it's a Bulgarian folk songs. And maybe you would like to ask our colleagues, like, how come a Texan, a guy from DC, and a guy from Philly with an American composer end up with a Bulgarian folk song at the last movement? But that's, I will leave.
Hey, that's a good one. Go ahead, guys.
It sounded so incredible. Simple and of course very authentic. I don't know how they make it so authentic. It does sound like a Balkan group of people in front of you. And I thought, wow, it's very cool. Then I saw the score and I said, oy vey, it's 11/16. That's been 3-4 bars minus 1/16. So but when you hear them play it so solid and so incredibly convincing, we have to see how it goes tonight with the orchestra. But I'm pretty sure, because it sounds so incredibly tight and good. But it was a surprise for me when I first time saw the score.
You mean terrifying? Yeah, sorry.
No, I can answer.
Hey, Nick.
I can answer the last movement thing. So Kevin, go ahead.
Before you answer, just for everybody listening, and right before we get to your list, so this is like da 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 da. So for people in the U.S., that's like, it almost feels like every measure is rushing, but for the Bulgarian culture, that's just the groove. So just kind of paint a picture in your minds on like what we're talking about. Anyhow, Nick, take it away.
No, totally. It's for us, it's such a fun rhythm to get into. And the reason for it, so Kevin got to know us a lot during the pandemic, and when coming up with this, he actually came to a lot of our shows to kind of study us, which was amazing. And to build this concerto, we would send him videos. So we have these sound checks on stage when we tour, and sometimes we'd improvise something and it was like, oh my God, this sounds really cool. Let's just send it to Kevin. And Kevin would, so we'd our tour manager, Dave Ross, who's on here, he'd videotape it. We send it to Kevin, and then maybe 3 or 4 days later, we get some music from Kevin saying, I transcribed what you did. What do you think of this idea? He'd, tease it out. And so we would volley back and forth. And then having seen our shows, he said the last movement, like this whole experience of the concerto, we got to drive it home somehow. And this whole idea of, the concerto being about the human existence, about imagining the future, civilizations who may want to hear about what's happening now, this idea of space travel. He wanted to end with something that was sort of back to earth and the spirit of Time for Three, which was like, we are 3 people who love a gathering, a party, to celebrate together, community. This is all words that embody Time for Three. And so he said, well, that we need to find a dance. We need to find something that kind of encapsulates that. And that's why we love his idea of taking this Bulgarian tune. That was actually something that his son, Ben, who plays the cello, was playing during the pandemic with his cello group class. And
Oh, I
he thought,
remember
okay,
reading about that.
yeah. And he said, okay, well, I'm going to use that as the vehicle for this. And then we were trying to figure out a title, and we landed on Convivium, which obviously means gathering and basically a party. So that's really, it's very simple and basic as to why we chose that direction. But of course with Kevin, he was able then to tie in as kind of like the pieces winding up to the grand finale. He was able to tie in all the elements of the concerto, including that first a cappella 3-part harmony that we sing, that he gives to the whole entire orchestra to sing while we're like virtuosically playing. So it's this incredible wrap up to the whole experience. And
The
it's
structure
awesome.
the structure is absolutely amazing. The orchestration is stunning. The ideas, as Nir mentioned earlier, open a triple concerto singing syllables. I mean, perfectly, by the way. All of that, and it's just what I meant was the structure, the construction. I could hear every single motive as it very clearly came in, and I believe the public will hear these motives also. We'll get the bigger, larger, deeper question. And so you have helped me, all of you, because I do see it as very, very, very deep, very profound, very long-lived, because of the colossal emotions that Putz has managed to release. The first 3 movements are quite serious, really. I mean, Contact, the third movement, is very much a lament, in my view, a lament for mankind, for the condition of whatever, of unhappiness. And see what I mean? It's just, it does indeed go out into outer space, if you will, but I think it's inner space that's being addressed with this profound concerto. And
That's
of course,
awesome.
the last movement, Convivium, is exactly right. Humanity, dancing. I mean, how else do you rise above horrors but
Well,
by dancing and being
I
danced?
just want to add in there too that we just literally finished doing this at Lincoln Center with Paul Taylor Dance Company, and
I saw that, yeah.
It was the first time. I mean, Time for Three and Kevin Putz, we had this idea while it was in the creation process and when we were recording it, of what it meant in our heads, but then seeing it visualized by Lauren Lovett and Paul Taylor Dance Company in a completely different way. And that's what kind of makes it great work, is it can be personal to so many different people. So many different people can have their own take on it. Like you said, Lament for the third movement, which was something that we saw on stage for what Lauren choreographed. This inner struggle of someone's mind was really interesting to just get another take on it. So yeah, it's
very
a very
little that very simple. I mean, it's like a 2-note motive, is it not, Nir? That opens the piece, that runs through. It's simplicity itself, and I weep. And it has to do with that magic, that manipulation. I don't mean that in a bad way, of sound to the brain. And now I have a couple quotes. I think we're done. Nir, do you have anybody have any last thing to say? And then I'm going to read you a couple quotes and we'll be out of here.
No, I think it's of course a proof of the genius of a composer with very simple, intervals. It's a third, a second, whatever, to bring something which is much bigger than that. For me, the third movement is about solitude, these incredible long spaces, the kind of phrases that are detached from each other. This evokes something in me and might be different what the composer wanted, but it's sure give us a feeling to think about something. And I also just want to mention that the last movement, you spoke about the second half. How can you do something after that? What should be the inspiration to go, into the break, and then after intermission to come with something. So I was inspired by this gathering, the party, the dance element. It says, well, let's bring all kind of dances. We have La Valse, we have Farandole by Bizet.
Oh, that's it.
We have, the Polovetsen dance. So everything has to do with dancing, with something that is really connected to something very folks-wise, which is actually ending the concerto. So the second half actually, continued that spirit of the last movement. But
you just helped me. You just answered the programming question. Nir Kabaretti, in my view, is one of the great architects of programs. And I looked at this one and I didn't get it. Now you have just helped me understand. Of course, that's the whole message. Through the whole thing is a dance, a human dance, humanity. It's glorious. Okay, let's wind it down with just a couple of quotes, and then we're going to say goodbye. This is by Willa Cather, the novelist from the 20s, the prairie woman, if you will. Here's this quote, and this is what geared me up for what I think has been a successful answer from you all to what's been in my heart and on my mind. Quote Willa Cather. She says, "It is the inexplicable presence of the thing not named, of the overtone divined by the ear but not heard by it, the verbal mood, the emotional aura of the fact or the thing or the deed. That is this concerto to me."
Beautiful.
Wow.
And then just one last from Putz himself, little quote that really I think explains it all. And you know this quote very well, but he says, "The word contact has gained new resonance during these years of isolation. It is my hope that this concerto might be heard as an expression of yearning for this fundamental human need." Now I'll go pick myself up off the floor, and we'll be done. It's wonderful getting old. I weep easily. Anyway, thanks all of you very, very much indeed.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you for coming to Santa Barbara and enrich our community with such an incredible piece. And
Man. Well, I mean, with the guys and I were talking about this, like Renan sort of hinted at it. None of us ever thought that jamming and just kind of hanging out and doing something like an activity that was so away from playing like our core rep, that we'd be part of this tradition. The California Festival, I mean, that is so heavy, especially coming from the culture of John Adams, MTT, and Esapeka being now at the helm of San Francisco Symphony, Dudamel. It's such a honor to be part of. I mean, we would laugh at you if you said that we would be part of this. I mean, we're part of such an important thing of the world, and that's happening in the state. So it's great. It's a pleasure to be here representing that.
Not to be too terribly long-winded, but I just want to add to, we get this luxury time for three to travel and, spend almost one or two orchestras a month, new orchestras or orchestras that we're revisiting. And it just seems like what you got going on here is about innovation and reaching. And let's just keep on going deep, because we need it. The orchestra world needs to go deep, nothing but opportunity right now. And so congratulations on reaching. It's awesome.
Into a great architect like Nir. It's awesome. That was an amazing quote. We can't wait to work with you, man.
Thank you so much. We are so happy to have you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Bye, Daniel. Thank you.
Bye, all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.